This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Tom, just kind of your thoughts initially on what we saw Saturday night play out between the Bears and the Hogs.
Good morning, guys. I got a bunch of thoughts, but I'll say this. I think Arkansas is a very good team. They're doing some things to try to cover up some flaws. The injuries have certainly impacted them. I think they're a very efficient offense. But obviously on defense, the injuries have put some guys who aren't as experienced in certain positions. And, Missouri State teams during the summer, they scheme up those first three games. Petrino did this. During the summer, you really game plan for those first three. Like, you have a really good thing in place. And then they also had 2 extra days. So they repped and they repped and they repped this. They took advantage of some misdirection stuff, getting the defensive back's eyes going one way and throwing the throw to the tight end. Jordan Jones was wide open down the right sideline. So Arkansas teams in the past would have, when they were down 17, they would have struggled to win this game. And I dare say a lot of teams from the last couple of decades would have lost it. But they have good leadership, and, they rallied. They did the things they had to do. Look, with 9 minutes left in the game and you're down 10 points, they couldn't afford to have a real time-consuming drive. And so the Rocket Sanders shovel pass, you could just see it. He was motivated by that fumble earlier in the game, and he just broke out of that, that jersey grab and outran everybody. So they had to have explosive plays, and they got them. There's some tough games ahead, but the fact that they're 3-0 at this stage really goes to show a lot of where the program is and like the character of the roster.
I think sometimes we have to learn to be patient, Tom, when watching this Arkansas team. It doesn't always happen where the offensive line is going to wear down the opponent in the first half of the game or even the early third quarter. What we saw Saturday night was by the fourth quarter, they were gassed. They were worn out. Arkansas at the line of scrimmage had won the battle. That takes time. We have to remember that.
And that's a good point. And also, we had grown used to what Arkansas had done, and that was have really good ball security, wear people down, really hit hard and all. But, it looked to me like, McLaughlin went out, Bumper Pool went out for a few series. And so the personnel wasn't always the same. And then when you turn the ball over on the 1-yard line, when you give up third down and long plays, it all starts creating something. And in this case, it was the atmosphere of an upset. And thankfully for the Razorbacks, they kind of stayed with the course, got those explosive plays. But we're not used to, we were not used to seeing them give the ball away. Some linebacker went in, number 30, I think his name was Vaughn, just went in and just raked the ball away from KJ on that first turnover. And then, of course, they just kind of got a little fortunate with the dude's helmet, the other linebacker's helmet hitting the ball from Rocket at the 1. And then, the interception was just a total gift. So Missouri State got a few freak plays. They had a great game plan. This game meant the world to Bobby Petrino, and Arkansas still dodged that bullet.
Is there any value in coming from behind, even this caliber of an opponent, an FCS team? Is there value in your mind in the aspect that you had to come from behind? You accomplished that. What does this team take away from that experience?
Well, certainly it tests your leadership. People aren't on the sideline pointing fingers and say that was your man. That's why they scored a touchdown. They didn't do that. You saw KJ going up and down the sideline showing leadership. You don't want to get down by 17, but hey, now if it happens again, you can say we've done this. And so there's definitely value in it.
Talking with Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Whole Hog Sports. Tom, a lot has been made this morning from our listeners about the secondary. Some are vouching for them, some are coming out against them, and just kind of what's happened thus far. I know Sam fielded a bunch of questions about that yesterday, and he was really high on Malik Chavez. What do you think they need to do with Malik the rest of the way to maybe kind of shore up what they've given up in the passing game?
Yeah, Yeah, great question. And you could tell that Sam Pittman was basically thinking out loud, like things that they've bounced off each other. And as he said, everybody in the building knows what's going on. And so whereas last year he called it double cloud coverage, so you got the second level kind of cloud-like, zone, and then the back level, the third level, in a zone as well. And like games against Mississippi State and some other games, it was relatively effective, but other teams just ate it up. And so they felt, and that was the whole talk in the summertime, was we have to get teams behind the chains. We have to bring more pressure. So they've added personnel like Drew Sanders, Jordan Dominic have been just outstanding additions. And so they're getting more pressure on the quarterback. I've been writing about it since the game. They lead the country in sacks per game and in yards allowed per game. So I think getting Miles Slusher back, if he's able to go, it just gives you another piece. And then it was very complimentary of Chavis that Pittman said, we need him on the field. And so they've got to figure out the puzzle. And it's probably going to involve some rotations. But I think they want to have Slusher at safety and Chavis at safety. And so, who does that leave in or out? Brini and Simeon Blair. So those four guys playing safety. Hudson Clark and McLaughlin at corner. But Chavis might get some more run at corner as well. All things considered, what's happened with the secondary, I think the cornerbacks have, they might not have great tackle grades, but I think they've held up. We've seen a ton of deep balls thrown against them. And, there's been a couple of picks. There's overthrows. Quarterbacks haven't had the proper time. But there are definite issues. And, as he said, we think we're doing the best thing to win games. And that's what they're doing. It's a game-by-game thing. Survive that game, go to the next game.
Tom, what I think is unique about this defense last year compared to this year's, last year's defense really didn't blitz. They just ran that 3 down and then dropped 8. This year, they're coming after you with Drew Sanders, bumper pull, blitzing other cornerbacks and safeties. How do you think Barry Odom has handled his personnel and adapting to what he has this year?
Right. Well, given what they're facing, which is the injuries, Jalen Catalon, you cannot get, over the fact that that's a huge loss. I mean, that's real. Ladarius Bishop, even though he didn't have a great camp, it hurts that you don't have another corner. And so with Slusher out, they just managed. And they're going to put together a good game plan. I mean, these guys are good coaches. They're paid well. They're veterans in this. And A&M's going to be a real puzzler because they haven't passed the ball well. They want to run it. But I think Arkansas's run defense is pretty stout. So, I don't think they're going to get torn up for 350 like they have been the last couple of weeks by, Max Johnson. So this is just going to be a real intriguing game as to A&M's game plan, or do they go out of character, and what Arkansas does to combat it.
There's so many statistical misfits when you look at the stat sheet, and we're talking about this passing game issue. Tom, I contend you can fix the passing yards stat problem by cleaning up your tackling and this not letting those 1 or 2 plays a game where a wide receiver is just running wide open with no one 20 yards around them. You fix those 2 issues, how much of that yardage problem in the passing game do you fix for this defense?
Well, I mean, it tightens things up for sure. And that's the flip side to bringing all the pressure. You've got a lot of man coverage, and I don't know if it was Simeon Blair, but he was the closest guy to Ty Scott on the 4th and 1. But, Lord, did y'all have flashbacks to Cowboy up? Now, Chris Gregg was a tight end on that play against Monroe back in 2008, Petrino's first year, when if they don't complete that play, Monroe probably wins the game. It was 4th and 1, and this was a 4th and 1, and Ty Scott was I think he was more like in a wing-back type position on that play, and no one was on him. I mean, it was just a Petrino max play, But, yeah, the tackling was really shoddy, and then not only missed tackles, but guys that got juked out. So they just got to rally to the ball a little bit better than they have.
Rocket Sanders has been the centerpiece of this team. Where do you place him in your mind when you look at other SEC backs, and particularly in this league, but maybe even around the country? Where does Rocket rank right now in your mind?
Well, I mean, he's first in the SEC in rushing. He's gotten the opportunity. I wrote in the summer that I didn't think they'd have a 1,000-yard rusher because I thought, A.J. Green would come on and Dominic Johnson would maybe appear before he has, and that, they really like Dubinion and KJ would run it. But now it looks like he's well on his way if he stays healthy. And I would put him up like Ole Miss uses a couple of guys, but they're a great run team. And it's just utilization, but and he's got speed. I mean, he outran everybody on that 73-yard shovel pass, and he is for a guy who was a receiver in high school, and we're talking about 2 years ago. He has been phenomenal. I mean, he runs with great pad level. He's a tackle breaker. This is a Sam Pittman team on offense. Big O-line, a big quarterback, dual threat, and ways to pound people.
Talking with Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and Whole Hog Sports. Tom, looking ahead to the Texas A&M game, Nia Smith and Devon Achane are the two that Arkansas has to account for at all times. Achane is leading the country right now in kickoff returns. We know that Nia Smith can be lethal at any point when he touches the football. How much do you think Barry Odom is going to account for those two when it comes to factoring the game plan? It's not Max Johnson isn't the best quarterback that they faced to this point. When you have guys like that, it makes your job a little bit easier.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I know A&M has more weapons than those guys like Muhammad and all, but yeah, you have to scheme to prevent A-Chain from breaking loose. It's like when A&M had Christian Kirk. Arkansas could not seem to keep the ball away from them. They score a late touchdown, they kick off, and Kirk returns it 100 yards. They're a lot better at touchbacks now. So number one is Jake Bates giving you touchbacks to keep the kick returns down. And then B, rallying up on defense in the run game. They're going to throw swing passes and screens to these guys as well. So, I think if they're able to hold Achane and Smith to reasonable numbers, they've got a good chance to win this game.
And on the other side of the football, A&M's coming in with the top 10 defense, and they're going to do their best to limit KJ and company. Is that a byproduct of who they played, or based on what you've watched, does A&M have that talented a defense?
Oh, yeah, they're really good. Now, their secondary is tremendous. They had 80-something plays run against them by Appalachian State. So, in the fourth quarter, they just wore down a little bit, and the Mountaineers had some long drives. Miami passed the ball and just didn't get a lot going on them. I do believe Arkansas presents a more balanced offensive challenge for them. So, I mean, look, it took an 87-yard or 83, whatever that was, Jefferson to Burke's touchdown to kind of loosen that game up last year, but it was still low scoring. So I don't know. Arkansas's got to be a better tackling team. They got to break tackles, and I think if they're able to show some balance, they'll be able to score, probably into the 20s on A&M.
Got a couple big games in this league this week. Arkansas A&M being one, Tennessee, Florida being the other. Where I think everyone's got Georgia and Bama at the top. Where, as a voter in the AP poll, do these games slot for you as far as trying to figure out kind of where things stand in the SEC? What does the winners of these games mean to you moving forward, and how you lay out your ballot?
Right. Y'all are well aware, everybody is, that there's been this season-long debate. Who's the number 3 team in the SEC? And it can vary from week to week. Kentucky's looked really solid. On our picks that we're doing in the sections on Saturdays, we pick 7 games a week, and I picked them all right except one. So I'm 20-1. My lone miss was the Kentucky at Florida game. I guess I got overhyped after Florida beat Utah. But Kentucky could make a case for being number 3. I do wish they played a schedule that more reflects, I just think the Western schedule's harder, and I felt like Arkansas was a better team than Kentucky last year. But look, Tennessee, you can't deny the fact they've got a very, very explosive offense. Hendon Hooker is an efficient quarterback. I mean, he's kept the INTs way down in that system. So if they rout Florida, if they beat Florida with any margin, you could say they have a case. Arkansas certainly does. A&M, they lost a non-conference game, but if they beat Arkansas, then they can start that argument too. It's just a really, really tough division. I wavered last week on the Mississippi State at LSU pick. I had Mississippi State early in the week, and then I just felt like being at home, it'd be a real challenge for Mississippi State to win that game. So I'm going on and on, but there's a lot of teams that could say, hey, we could be the third best. And quite honestly, some of them could maybe beat Alabama.
Yeah. So where do you have Ole Miss in the mix? They haven't really had a difficult schedule. In fact, it's pretty soft until they play Kentucky, but they've been dominant. So how do you evaluate right now Ole Miss at this point?
Yeah, and I failed to mention them, but a very strong team. And they get the benefit of kind of building confidence, building what their schemes are, settling out what the snaps will look like between Dart and Altmaier. And look at their schedule. Their first 6 games are like, wow, I'd love to play that 6 games. A road game at Georgia Tech. Maybe it looks good with the FBS, but Georgia Tech's just really struggling. So their first 6 aren't, super tough. And then their last 6 are really hard. Yeah. So they can make an argument right now as well. They
do get Kentucky as their 5th game, but then Vanderbilt, like I said, and Auburn doesn't look to be that difficult, but the really the steep part of their schedule begins mid-October. LSU, A&M bye week, then Bama, Arkansas, and the Egg Bowl to close. So we'll know at the end what they're all about.
Tom, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say it's just another wonderful SEC season. And what I like about where the Razorbacks are is I think they just have good coaches, and they're going to learn from what happened against Missouri State. And I think they're going to have a good game plan for this game Saturday.
Tom, we'll leave it there. Talk more about A&M on Thursday, okay?
Sounds good. See y'all.
All right, Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette with us here on the Morning Rush, and looking forward to breaking down that Arkansas A&M game a little bit closer on Thursday morning with him.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. Bet online, where the game starts.